All right, y'all. Today's oligarch and not well-known Scooby-Doo villain, Leonard Leo. Let me start by saying that in researching this villain of all Scooby-Doo villains, Mr. Len Leo, as he's often referred to, made me really want to say "fuck it" and walk away. Um, Researching Leo has made me nauseous, and I tell you, this was one of those times that confirms ignorance really is bliss. Um, just he can fuck all the way off. I will say that he can fuck all the way off. Jesus.
This ought to be
Um,
interesting. I like
yeah.
I
Go
like I
ahead.
said, I've done I know who he is, and I know, you know, vaguely why he sucks, but I'm excited to hear more.
So it starts back in the mid. He starts his journey back in the mid '80s, coming out of college, um, and where we are as a country today with our politics, with our judicial system, is very, very much in large part contributed to him. If I were going to try to summarize all the articles I read and the impact that Leo has had on our government and our society, is that he has had a ridiculously disproportionate sized hand in the shaping and reshaping of our judicial system. He's been involved in undermining the people's will since the mid to early '80s. So let's start with how he made his fortune. So, to try to keep to our standard measure, uh, when I first started researching Leo, I wasn't sure that he was wealthy enough to qualify as an oligarch. So, with a quick search on my preferred internet search engine, I just asked the question, does he qualify? And the answer I got back was yes. Leonard Leo can be classified as an oligarch due his significant influence and control over political and judicial appointments in the U.S., primarily through his substantial financial contributions and a network of conservative organizations. His actions reflect the characteristics of oligarchy, where power is concentrated among a small group of wealthy individuals. So, in keeping in line with our standard of measurement for the oligarchy of the day, I'll start off by saying that Leonard Leo is not listed on Forbes' list of wealthiest people. But please save your pity for his ass clown of a self until we have finished the segment. Now, his net worth has been very hard to pin down, depending on the source used. It ranged in one source, it said $7 to $10 million, up to his excuse me, up to as high as $1.6 billion. He received the $1.6 billion from Bar Said, who ran and owned the Chicago electronics manufacturer Trip Light. Said had long donated to conservative and libertarian causes, from George Mason University to the climate skeptic group, the Heartland Institute. And I'm getting slightly off topic, and I'll get back to Mr. Leo real quick. But Said decided to put Leo in charge of his fortune recently, and again, that fortune being 1.6 billion. What was then, and that's recently known as the largest political donation in the country's history. Again, that was one single donation of $1.6 billion that Leo is
God.
now in charge of. And he did so through a series of complicated transactions that Said, and I'm probably mispronouncing his name. It's a Jewish name. It's Seid. So Said or Said. Said transferred ownership of his company to a newly created entity called Marble Freedom Trust, of which Leo was the sole trustee. So Leo's impact on the American judicial system. These are bullet point highlight segments from the article ProPublica, which again, that was every article I found referenced this article from ProPublica called "We Don't Talk About Leonard Leo," the man behind the right Supreme Court supermajority. In the show notes, you will see several articles attached from my research on Leonard Leo. Leo's involvement in transforming the judiciary beyond the Supreme Court was significant. He worked with the Federalist Society, influencing conservative judicial appointees. appointments rather. Leo's influence extended to appointing judges who aligned with conservative views on gun control, abortion, and LGBTQIA plus rights. The Federalist Society, founded by Leo, became a powerful network influencing conservative judicial appointments. Judges attending a week-long conference in Maine hosted by George Mason University's Anton Scalia Law School made rulings reflecting conservative stances on issues like gun control, birth control mandates, abortion, LGBTQIA rights, and voter ID laws. The conference aimed to promote a free market, anti-regulation agenda among young lawyers, judges, and state attorney generals. Leo's power and vision were evident in securing donations and influencing the selection of cases and judges. Leo's networking strategy involved hosting dinners, connecting justices with major donors, benefiting both parties. Leonard Leo's influence shaped the conservative movement and transformed the courts. Leo organized retreats of Supreme Court justices with prominent conservative donors, i.e., Thomas and Crow, and facilitated private trips for Justice Alito and Scalia, funded by donors. Leo also helped Ginny Thomas secure a subcontractor position with Kellyanne Conway in 2012, paying her at least $25,000. Leo claimed to have obscured Ginny Thomas's role to protect her privacy. Reverend Rob Schneck befriended several justices, praying with them and socializing outside the court. Leo's influence highlighted the advantage of personal connections with Supreme Court justices and advocating for change. The Federalist Society, under Leo's leadership, shifted its focus to state courts, allocating a significant portion of its budget to this initiative. So, summarizing his impact on the working class in the South, Leonard Leo has played a significant role in shaping the U.S. judiciary, as we've talked about, particularly through his leadership in the Federalist Society. He has been instrumental in the nominations, again, of several Supreme Court justices, including Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett. Let's not forget, though, that he did work on the Senate committee's hearing and nomination of Clarence Thomas. This influence has led to conservative majority on the court, which has made rulings that many argue negatively impact working class individuals and communities, particularly those of us in the South. His impact on labor right and social issues, the conservative judicial appointments have often resulted in decisions that favor corporate interest over labor rights. For instance, rulings that weaken union power and limit workers' rights can disproportionately affect those of us working class in the South and southern states, that is, where labor movements are already vulnerable. Additionally, the court's stance on issues like healthcare and reproductive rights can further marginalize low-income individuals who rely on these services. The impact on economic and social consequences because of Leo's influence on the conservative courts. These policies supported by Leo and the justices he helped appoint have contributed to a broader agenda that critics argue undermines social safety nets. This includes efforts to roll back regulations that protect workers and environment, which can lead to economic instability for working class families. The focus on a conservative legal agenda may also exacerbate existing inequalities in the South, where many communities struggle with poverty and limited access to resources. In conclusion, Leonard Leo's influence on the judiciary has significant implications for us working class people, particularly those of us in the South. His role in reshaping a conservative legal landscape has led to decisions that many of us believe undermine labor rights and social protections, ultimately affecting the economic well-being of vulnerable populations. Many people like myself did not realize how big of a role that Leonard Leo played in all of Trump's nominations in his first term, and that's at the lower court level as well. So yeah, that's Mr. Leonard Leo.
Yeah, isn't he kind of a big deal when it comes to Project 2025 too?
He is. He very much is a big player in the Project 2025. Again, he had a lot of profit organizations that he then donated money from them to his own for-profit organizations, which helped raise a lot of money for Project 2025. Yeah, dude is as someone was quoted in that article from ProPublica, one of the protesters that wound up protesting at a house that was bought and paid for very quickly by Leonard Leo said she scribbled in chalk on the street, Google Leonard Leo. I highly recommend everyone Google Leonard Leo. All righty, boys and girls, we appreciate you joining us. Again, I'm John Brown.
And I'm Butterfly Screams.
And this has been We the Waste People podcast. That is all we have for today. We hope that you're learning something. And most importantly, realizing just how much the Epstein class hates us all. As a reminder, all the sources we use to compile the information discussed in this episode will be linked in the show notes. So please check them out. Currently, you can find us on Spotify, YouTube, Substack, Blue Sky, and TikTok by searching at Waste People Pod. Join us in 2 weeks as we continue to explore class in America and call out the oligarchs destroying our country.
See everyone in 2 weeks.